Good evening, folks. So, just back with another trade breakdown, and today I took a buy on pound yen, and I closed out for about 0.65%, which is pretty good. So, just kind of going to talk through that, my thought process, why I didn't get in earlier, and things like that. So, just basically where we are is a bit of a tricky area. I'm on the 4-hour tool, and I've pulled this back to basically where the 2 a.m. 4-hour candle closes at 6, and kind of just looking at like what happened yesterday, and essentially what I wanted to see was this whole area price to close above it, which it did. I would want to see that area respected for price to then continue to the upside, which did happen. And now during Asian session, we've basically just returned to that same area. Now we have closed below the most recent support, and we have closed below like this daily resistance and this daily zone. So because the session bias is bearish, buys are going to be tough. And just looking at the 4-hour time frame, buys are going to be tough because we're buying into a support zone. We're buying into everything what's left here. Like, not really nice price action. Essentially what I was thinking was, well, I would want to be above this area. So with being wanting to be above this area, it's going to mean that I'm going to have to wait and see. What I was thinking, well, is there a possibility that the next 4-hour candle is bullish, but we need to close above this support? Essentially, I'm looking for this like 4-hour support and resistance area in here to act as a potential area for price to continue higher, like a higher support. So I was thinking, can we maybe pull up, close bullish, and then pull back and respect this or this, and then as we kind of push higher, look to get involved in buys maybe in and around here. So this is what I'm thinking of just on this time frame alone. And the simple reason is because again the session bias is bearish. Buying into it is going to be tough. I wanted to see some form of structure sort of to the upside. Now, if I kind of drop the time frames and skip to the 3-minute, this is basically the most recent support and resistance come the session. So I know the session bias is bearish. What I was looking at potentially here was when I got to the charts this morning, which was approximately about 7:30, coming on to London Open, this is where price was. So I was looking at this and thinking to myself, well, is there a possibility that we maybe push up and maybe respect what's left and maybe start to come down with the open, and maybe like fill this candle here, and as we maybe start to break these areas with possible volume on London Open, given the bias is bearish, can I take a sell and see what happens here and see what happens here, but ultimately look to sort of ride the volume down because the session bias is bearish? What that would look like on the 4-hour is the 4-hour would have a wick to the upside, and then it would flip bearish in line with the previous bearish 4-hour. Now that didn't happen, and we actually closed above. So this candle is 7:30 to 8:30. So this is London Open. After this candle closes, London Open's happening. So to me, I didn't want to take this buy because again, it's going against the session bias. Buys do make sense, by the way, from here. However, I wanted to see like a more significant push. What I was thinking was, well, if price goes, it goes, right? What I can then do is when it goes and it maybe pauses and maybe has like a resistance, either we form a support, or if we start to break that resistance, I can look to get involved in a buy. And so first and foremost, what I wanted to see first was structure. I wanted to see some form of change in structure to the upside, or at least price to move away from this area to confirm the direction for me. Now, if I just skip through, there was a potential to buy here um on the 830 candle. So, this looks good in the sense that we have support, resistance. We actually close above the most recent resistance. We pull back down, reject the support again, and then we open, we pull down, reject again, and actually close back above. So that is a good sign to buy, right? Because in terms of structure, we're failing to break down. It is a resistance zone on the daily. This could just be a deeper retracement for price to pull back and then find change in structure and support to then continue with the overall bullish bias. However, it's against the session bias. I was looking left and I seen this and I said to myself, do you know what? I don't want to take a buy here on the chance that we just react at one of these levels and price fucks off to the downside. Essentially, this buy here, from here to this 4-hour level, given the bias is bearish, I didn't fancy taking that buy. You could go stops below the range, and if it goes, right? But I was happy to let that go because I knew as we push up into this region, looking left, yes, we have this clean candle, but there is areas in here which price may react at, which, if the volume doesn't come in the direction of upside against the bias, then these areas are probably going to play a part in terms of reaction that we see here. So I didn't take that, but that was an option to get into a trade, maybe close out there given what's left, and again session bias and so on. So for me, it wasn't for me. If I just skip through, we have one more 30-minute candle which is bullish and breaks a high, and if I just skip to the 50-minute time frame, this was actually my trade. Okay, and if I just bring on my trade here, this was my trade today, and it was taken off the 50-minute time frame, and basically we seen S candle form a resistance, and what I done was when this candle was open, I actually placed a buy stop above the high. Stops were below the 4-hour support, and for targets, I basically have my target somewhere up here in and around this region here, like 1 to 1.2, 1.4, just to sort of mirror this candle. But I actually closed out of the position at 0.65, which is right up here. And the reason I took the trade was because price had pushed out, formed a target. We didn't get a pullback deep enough, and we started to break the highs. So what I was anticipating was price to continue. Okay, because I was thinking, well, if we're pushing bullish and we maybe have volume coming in, or we're going to get continuation to the upside, because again, for me, price has already confirmed the direction by closing above. So if we get a pause in the market, if we start to break that high again, that's a wrong color. If we start to break that high again, I'm expecting price to continue. There is this clean candle to the left here that we could mirror. However, I closed right up here. And the reason I closed is because it was more than I would have got if I had have moved my stop loss to 0.5. So I actually closed out for 0.65, and typically with my trades, as soon as it gets beyond 0.5, I'll close out, or no, sorry, I'll move my stop loss to secure 0.5%, and then I'll let it go. But something I'm trying differently for the remainder of this month going into next month is just when I get past 0.5, if it's 0.7, 0.8, depending on the volume, I'm just going to close it out at more because it's going to secure more for me. And if I just skip the next candle, we can see that we pushed up and then we come back down, and then this is when we had the rollover. Now looking at this on the 5-minute, we can see that we did form a higher support on the 5-minute. Now I don't trade the 5 minute. But in terms of those type of structures where we push up, have a little resistance, a little pause, and then we break that, that is going to be higher support on the 5 minute, or on the lower time frames, I should say. And again, I know that the top of this box is the 4 hour resistance zone. So again, that's going to come before this area at all. And we can see that we have support here. We have reaction and rejection at this support at the top, or sorry, this resistance zone at the top. Again, we have it here. So it is an area looking left that price does react at. I was potentially anticipating like continuation, kind of similar to like these candles. I was thinking, was there a chance that we might get those candles like here? Because again, we have broken out to the upside. We are sort of leaving this zone, we're leaving the structure, and there is, a bit of volume in the market with the open. So that is the trade. That is the reason for closing, the reason for entering. And because the session best was bearish, when this trade finished, I just closed everything. It's like I'm not looking at the charts. I spent a bit of time because I didn't trade yesterday, like looking at the charts, and it was like, do you know what? What's the point? I'm not going to do that, because it only potentially stimulates the mind to want to get involved in positions, or what about this or what about that. So I just closed this today. However, if I didn't get involved in a trade, or if I stuck to my bass, which was sells, the better trade did play out. We can see that the 1 hour confirmed the lower resistance. If we're looking at where price came from, started here, came down to here, we closed below support. What we do when we have a session best bearish, we wait for a lower resistance or a pullback. Once a resistance formed, this is a 1 hour close, which is a strong confirmation. This is 2 bearish 30 minutes, which forms the 1 hour candle. We can see that where this candle pulled down and confirmed the support, which is where I got involved, we can see that this candle has pulled back and tapped into that previous structure and then closed below. So that's a good sign. And then of course, looking at it on the 1 hour, the new 4 hour candle opened and we tanked to the downside. So from a structure perspective, going on the basis that where price came from, we're moving up in the market. And then what we do is we validate the support, and then we create a new low. So essentially what you'd be looking for is that would be an indication to me that this is a change in structure from this potentially to this. Now, if we closed up here and we pulled back and formed a higher support at this area and then started to go this way, I would just see that as a deeper retracement to continue the bullish price action. However, this candle opened and we pulled down. Now, that candle opened was a brand new 4 hour, so might not have been something I would have got involved in on that basis. But if we look at the 4 hour and how that closed, we can see again the 1 hour's broken structure in terms of the most recent support. The 4 hours done so. The last 1 hour of our current 4 hour for the session closed bearish, creating this big long wick on the upside, which meant that we rejected this support and closed below. So you could anticipate further downside. Looking at targets based on the 4 hour time frame, you've got this support here. Based on the 1 hour time frame, you've got this mid-range support here, which I believe actually is the 4 hour. Let me check. So what's that? 845. No, it's because price is actually in the replay tool. So this would have been your 4 hour. So as you can see, price did continue. So that is the trade for me. A buy which went against session bias, which typically isn't the greatest idea, and not something I do all the time. But I wanted to see basically price confirm the direction for me, which it did. You could say I did get away with one in terms of I basically bought the top in a sense, but there was no indication that this was going to come. you know, I was expecting, because we had such a heavy downside, to, with the open, maybe have something like what we've seen at 2 o'clock happen from 8, and the continuation to the downside. But yeah, so that's my trade this week. I've only had two trades this week. Let me just double check the date. Yeah, two trades this week. Um, one for, I came out at, what was it, 0.6%? Yeah, and 0.65%. So two trades this week, just over 1%. Um, but yeah, a wee bit slow from me. But yeah, I mean, these areas have been a bit tricky to trade, especially yesterday was just a bit of a fucking headache and wasn't great. But we'll see what happens tomorrow and leading into next week. But yeah, that's my trade breakdown from today on the session. So thanks very much for watching.